Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon to all those who are joining from Australia, and good morning to all our speakers who are joining in from Dubai, UAE. Thank you so much for joining in today. I would like to thank each and every speaker, for joining us today for this webinar, which is focused on unlocking the UAE for exports of food and beverage from South Australia. Just to take you through some of the details, this webinar will be focusing on the opportunities within specific category of products, meat, vegan, dairy free, organic, and other value added food and beverage products. We'll also be talking about understanding the different channels and route to be taken for entering the entering the market, the UAE market. It could be through distribution or export consolidation. We'll also be talking about different traditional retail route, as well as the online retail growth area strategies for the future, and the usual problem areas while importing from both the retailer distributor perspective. We also will be listening in from Dubai municipality. Dr. Essam would be speaking about the different contraventions while exporting from South Australia into the UAE, into Dubai, mainly from Australia into Dubai. And but before that, I would like to introduce Ms. Catherine Sayer, who's the CEO for Food South Australia. She would give an introductory remarks. Catherine has led Food South Australia since it was established in 2010. As CEO, Catherine works closely with food businesses in South Australia. Along with the team, she delivers program to build the capacity and connections to help them grow and thrive. Catherine has studied a Bachelor of Business Marketing and worked at various marketing roles in Melbourne and Adelaide before working, with various primary industry-related organizations as a consultant for 15 years. So, Catherine, over to you.
Good afternoon to those in Adelaide, and good morning to those in the UAE. And as I see Curtie here on the screen, it's a great example of a relationship that we've had with Choithrams for many years, and have welcomed Curtie to Adelaide and to expose him to all our wonderful food and beverage products in South Australia. So thank you very much, Sid. I'm really looking forward to listening today to that whole path to market. From our members, we have a really strong diversity of industry players that are part of our membership, and so we've got all sorts of offerings, and interesting. Our members and the wider industry are very interested in your market, and obviously understanding a bit more about how to get into the marketplace is fantastic, and it's all about building relationships. But we've got a great diverse food and beverage industry in South Australia, and looking forward to working with you in the future.
Thank you, Catherine. Now I'll invite Dr. Essam from Dubai municipality. He's the head of food trade control section. Dr. Essam, I think your video is now it's switched on. Thank you. Dr. Essam is a PhD in food security, an MSc in veterinary surveillance, and he also has a diploma in public health inspection. He is in charge of controlling almost 13 UAE ports, both air, land, and sea, for import and export of food. He also controls the food destruction process for the Dubai municipality. He's a member of the UAE Food Bank. He manages, the daily food stocks for the Emirate of Dubai, and he's also a member of the Dubai municipality's crisis and emergency team. He's an authority by himself, and we're so glad that he's able to join us today. Dr. Essam, over to you for your presentation.
Thank you very much, Sid, for your introduction. Okay, my name is Essam Hashimi. I'm from Dubai municipality. I'm going to present today about the procedure and the status of Australia food that imported to Dubai. So Dubai municipality, we have a sector called Health and Safety and Environment sector. Under this sector, we have a Food Safety Department. In Food Safety Department, we have four main sections. Food Studies section, they are in charge of the regulations. Food Inspection section, they are in charge of the all the premises in Dubai for inspection purposes. And we have Permit and Applied Nutrition, they are in charge of any food establishment new to be established in Dubai. So they give their permission, and also they give awarenesses for the nutritions. Finally, about Food Trade Control section, this section is mainly in charge of the imported food from all parts of the world. So food trade control section. This section we have 4 main units. The first unit called seaports unit. So in this seaports we are in charge of almost 5 gates. We have 3 in Jebel Ali area, and which is the main import gate to Dubai, and we have 2 gates in the local local ports, which is Hamri and Beverage. In the airport, we have almost 7 gates, let's say, or entrance from airports, because we have 2 airports. In each airport, we have 3 main entrance. Then we have the land port. Land port, we have 2 main ports from Hatta, which comes from board attached with Oman, and we have we call it internal port, which is whatever food transferred from other part of the Emirates come to the internal port. Finally, we have the consignment follow-up team, and they are in charge of whatever not been inspected in the border. It will be inspected in the warehouse of the food traders. We have 4 main responsibilities: inspection of and releasing all imported food. Number 2, inspection and releasing all imported food for the re-export, and supervising food destruction in case that shipments arrive with the problems. And finally, we verify and comply the imported food stuff. For this purpose, we do 3 main things: physical inspection, labeling inspection, and sampling. On average, through land ports, we import per month almost 6,000 consignment, airports 12,000 consignment, seaports 12,600 consignments as an average, and follow-up team we transfer mainly from the seaports to the warehouse of the food traders, almost 3,000 consignment per month. We have our own system. We call it FIRS, Food Import and Re-Export System. This is a system for the Dubai municipality. Currently, we are working to develop this system to make it at the level of the United Arab Emirates, which we call it that system. Soon it will be published to the everyone that is able to use this system to import to the whole UAE. Currently, this system we import only for Dubai, which we call it FIRS. So the journey of the customer, before importing, the consignment should register as company, which is locally based company in UAE, and he deposit a financial deposit, which is almost 15,000 dirham, and refundable. Register the food, and he should register his product. It's recommended that he make a pre-laboratory test before importing the food to UAE to make sure that this food is complying with the UAE standards. Before importing the shipment, you should be assured that all the documents is available: health certificate, halal certificate, which is the main document that we are looking for. Then applying online to import to Dubai, which is should be done by through the local importer. After the shipment arrives to Dubai, it will come to the inspection area. We physically inspect the consignment, and if in case of the system request that we take sample, then we take the sample in the warehouse of the food traders, then the shipment will be released. So if the system, which is we are working risk-based system, if it didn't ask, it will be released directly from the port. The documents which would mainly required for the food: health certificate from the authorized government, halal certificate for the meat and meat products, packing list, other certificate if it, for example, pork-free diet certificate in case of the fish, farm fish, organic certificate and GMO certificate if the product being claimed that it is GMO-free or organic. So you need to provide this certificate if you claim on the product. The organic certificate, you can know the approved organization through the website, which is from the Ministry of Climate Change. You can see all the approved logos for the organic bodies. What is required or should be declared in health certificate? This all information should be available, and it is the responsibility of the food importer and exporter make sure this all information is available in the health certificate. The logo, the issuing authority, the title, the certificate number, the exporter, importer, and this is, should be matching with the food that is imported. For example, the quantity and the item description, the weight, this should match exactly with what is in the consignment. In case if it's not matching, the consignment may be rejected. The health certificate, it should be issued by the authorized government body, which is related to the food. For the GMO-free certificate, also from the authorized body. Original certificate, it's compulsory at this stage, unless if you have a verification system that will help us to release the shipment much faster. The food label registration requirement. The food should be containing this all information. So to avoid stopping the shipment in the port of entry, you have to make sure that the food is registered. During registration, we confirm that this food is having this information: the barcode, the product name, the brand name, the net weight, the country of origins, the manufacturer name, and the Arabic label is compulsory to be on the food item. What is the role of exporter? To comply with the UAE standard. So the exporter, he should make sure that whatever food he's sending to United Arab Emirates, it's complying with the UAE standard and the GSO standard, from the labeling, shelf life, product standards, and documents requirements. The importer rules is to apply through our portal, DM portal. He makes sure the food is registered and labeled, and follow the inspection release procedure and submit the requirement documents. By collaboration between the exporter and importer, the food will be released. As an average in Dubai, we release the shipment within 20 minutes, unless if there's any contraventions, it will take longer time. The purpose of food product registration is to enable trader to import their food products and apply for import request, apply for health certificate, and to do laboratory testing for the food products at the Dubai Central Laboratory. For the label assessment, to comply with the food products with the UAE standards, and to inform consignee of the label regulation and requirement that is pertaining to the food products in UAE. So we have label item registration and label assessment. In the label assessment, usually our team in Dubai municipality make sure that this product, it is complying with the UAE standard. So you need to ask for the label assessment to make sure that the percentage of the ingredient is matching with the UAE standard. So that will save a lot of time and effort from the exporter. Usually the price for label assessment in Dubai, it costs only 7 dirham per item. For the item registration, it is for free. This is the link how to get to standard, to reach to the standard. It's through the Emirates Authority for Standardization and Metrology. So this is the link for that. So you'll be able to see our the standard, labeling standards, the item standards. For halal documents, as mentioned previously, you can go through this link and you can reach to the approved certification bodies from Essam in Australia or any part of the world. Next slide, please. Also, we have Emirates International Accreditation Center. Also, you can reach to the halal approved body. So we have two lists that you need to select the halal certification body from, either from this website or the previous website, and you can contact this certification body to make sure that your product is complying with halal requirements. So if we show you some statistics about Dubai, an average in Dubai, or in total, consignment, number of consignment, 2017 we had 351,000 consignment. In 2019 it was 345,000 consignment that imported to Dubai borders. For the number of imported food items, individual food items, in 2019 almost 1.9 million individual items being imported to Dubai, comparing to 2017, which is almost 2 million. By tons, in 2017, 8 million tons. In 2019, 7.7 million tons of food that imported through Dubai border. So if you go about Australian statistics, from Australia, we can see this in 2016, almost 11,500 consignment. In 2019, 10,900 consignment start to increase back. Number of the containers, almost in 2019, 15,000 consignment being containers being imported through from Australia to Dubai. Total imported food items, almost 47,257 food items being imported from Australia. By tons, in 2019, 207,000 tons of food being imported from Australia to Dubai, comparing with, let's say, 2017, which was 420,000 tons of food. So there's a decrease. We need Australia to increase more rather than decreasing. If we see the food quantity imported, mainly the food comes from Australia. If we go to the 2019, mainly it was pulses, seeds, nuts, then vegetables. After that, the meat, which is almost 27,000 tons, and going down until the water, which is almost in 2019, 1 tons of water being imported from Australia. If we go by the specific items, you can see the chickpeas, then carrots, whole wheat, lamb carcasses, and oranges and field milk. This is all the details item being imported from Australia in 2019. So we'll speak about a little bit about the contraventions. So contraventions mean that whatever shipment that arrived to Dubai, it is not complying with our regulation. If there's any contraventions, it means the shipment will not be released either to the whole market, or it will be having some restriction, or it will be re-exported back to country of origin. So in 2016, we had almost 23,000 food item been having a contraventions, comparing to 2019, which is almost 5,900. It was mainly from the total contraventions, label contraventions, which is the Arabic label, and we'll give you more details about the label contraventions. In 2019, we have 2,700 label contraventions, comparing to 2016, which was almost 19,000 label contraventions. Certificate contraventions, in 2019, we have 3,000 almost certificate contraventions, and comparing to 2017, it is almost 5,400. Unfit samples, in 2016, we have 42 unfit samples that not complying with the UAE regulation, either from the food safety perspective or quality perspective. In 2019, it is 28 unfit samples. So if we go in more details about the certificate of the contraventions, we will see, number one, health certificate copy only submitted. So for example, in this case, if the only health certificate being submitted, we'll give a fines, which is almost 3,000 dirham. So, and we'll give some restriction for the consignee that is not allowed to distribute his food out of Dubai. Arabic label is not declared. Also, this another contraventions. We'll ask the importer to put his product only for the catering only. So if he have the Arabic label, he can distribute it in Dubai and out of Dubai. Halal certificate only could be submitted. In these cases, we reject the shipments. So we have 440. Either we take it for the recycling, or we back to country of origin, or we give him a fine, sometimes 10,000 dirham. So it's very high risk contravention to submit only copy halal certificate. Health certificate is not submitted. Also, this is another fine. So almost 400 items been ported without being included in the health certificate. Exceeding shelf life, also this is another problem. Almost 362 items that been imported, not meeting the standards for the UAE for the shelf life. So if we see the first 7 or 10 contraventions, the exporter and the importer will have a better distribution of their foods in UAE, or he can even re-export it to other countries if he comply with, I think it is only documentation and labeling. So I don't think it's a major problem. It's a minor problem, but in the field, it is a major problem because he should pay a fines, or some restriction will be implemented on these shipments. We can see the laboratory unfit samples. It is number 15 comparing to number 1, which is health certificate number 15, which is 14 items that it became unfit. So we have some initiative to reduce the contraventions. One of the initiative, we call it person in charge. So we give training courses for the importers to know what is our regulation, to avoid the, any fines. We give it in 2 days. We show them how he can use our system, what's our regulation. Also, we have a initiative called control at source. So we aware the exporter about our system, like this webinar. So to approach the exporter, so he will be aware about the procedure of UAE. Also, one of the initiatives that recently be started with the Australian government, we are looking to have an integration between the agriculture government in Australia with Dubai municipality. Our technical team started to meet with the concerned people in the IT of the Australian government, and we hope by next year this integration will finish and will solve a lot of problems which is related to the health certificate, and the it will be more reliable and for the importer and exporter. Thank you very much. This is our presentation. I hope it is useful for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Essam. Thank you so much for the detailed and informative presentation. I have just one or two questions which have come through. You know, there are obviously problems, and one good thing is that, you know, we see the contraventions from Australia have come down over the years from 2016 to 2019 mostly. But there are still problems when it comes, for example, to label assessment, registration, or approval. Does it have to be done by the importer, or can an exporter also do it from outside of UAE? Can you maybe provide some more clarity? And also, what is your suggestion to the exporters? What's the process they should go after?
Currently, the label assessment and registration, it can be done only through the local importer, because he has the access to our system. But I recommend strongly the exporter, before he export his food to Dubai, he asks the importer to show him or share with him the label registration and assessment. So he will be comfortable that his product is matching with UAE standard and regulation, especially that to verify that the food is compliant with our standards. Dubai municipality staff are doing it on behalf of the food exporter and importer. So the only thing that from the importer should done, he just apply for label assessment. We give him our feedback if it's matching with our standard or not. Based on that, he can ask the importer to share with him this result of the label assessment.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Essam. And also, just as a follow-up question to that, can the same label, you know, can be used in the other Emirates as Abu Dhabi as well, or do they require to do different approvals from other municipalities?
Currently, we have a one system, we call it ZAT. We established food registration and assessment, so who's verifying they are the same team, and it can be used in any other Emirates, in Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Sharjah, Ajman, all the Emirates. In future, as I mentioned, the food imports requests, it will be through the same system. Now we are doing label assessment and registration through one system in the whole Emirates.
Sure. And does this label also need to be re-registered, or once done, it remains registered for a particular period of time? What's the criteria on that?
So for food registration, it will be done one time only. So for example, today I have a food item, I register it. It will be added in the database. So tomorrow, another food importer, you would like to import the same food, you can select it. See, Dubai municipality, we are not authority for the trade or registering the agent of the food. So this is system to add the food item in our database. We have in our database almost more than 800,000 food items being registered in our system. You can import it, other people can import it. It is not the agent for the product. So it can be registered one time only, and everyone can use it. But if you have an issue with the agent, that goes to different department. We call it economic department. They are responsible. Whoever takes other companies' agency for this product.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Essam. Thank you so much for your inputs. I hope you can stay for the rest of the webinar, and in case there are any other questions coming up, I'll ask you those. Let's move on now to our panel discussion. On the panel, we have an esteemed panel here of who are one. We have Mr. Kirti Minani, who is from Choitram's Retail. He's the head of procurement there. We have Mr. Manoj Madhavan, who's the head of sales. Sales head for food service from Aramtech, and we have Mr. John White, who's a general manager for Intelligent Foods. Just to briefly introduce all of them to you, Mr. Kirti has been working with Choitrams since 1984. He started off his career in IT and then moved into supply chain. He's worked for retail operations now for more than 5 years, has been in procurement since 2012, and as I said, currently he's heading the procurement for Choitrams. Mr. John from Intelligent Food, he's a seasoned food service and HoReCa specialist with over 10 years of experience in the Middle East. He has, since early 2019, been serving as the general manager for Intelligent Foods. And prior to this, for almost 6 years, he was working with Organic Foods and Cafe in UAE. And previously, before coming into the UAE, he was working with BWG Food Service Group in Dublin, Ireland. That's Mr. John. And then we have Manoj from Aramtech. Manoj has been, he was the category manager for meat and poultry for more than 5 years at Aramtech, and recently been, has been made the sales head for food service earlier this year. And he has worked previously with ITC as an area manager, which is one of India's leading FMCG players. So that's our esteemed panel. Obviously, Dr. Essam is also there. Maybe let me start with Mr. Kirti yourself. You have been working with Choitrams for so long. Along with maybe briefly telling us more about Choitrams, could you also provide, like an overview of the type of category of products with which Choitrams has been retailing, and also tell us more about where is your supply currently coming from and how well Australia is represented.
Okay. So good morning, everyone. I would like to thank Dr. Essam for such a wonderful presentation, and all the people who are looking at it might be thinking that it's quite a complicated system. Actually, it is not. It's quite very easy thing to get it registered, and we are here to help all exporters who want to export from Australia, and that we've been doing it for so many years. Thank you, Catherine, for joining us. And I was actually looking forward to have a view of that very beautiful weather that you have in Adelaide today. Thank you very much for bringing that screen back. So a bit about Choitram. Choitram is a 75-year-old company, and we've been doing retailing since then. Of course, in the UAE, we have been here since the last 50 years. Currently, we have 41 stores in Dubai, and in the UAE, and we have another 15 in Bahrain and 8 in Doha. Primarily, we stock a lot of premium products in our stores. So most of the customers, they come to our stores looking for these premium products. So when I say premium products, it could be from anywhere in the world, maybe from the US, maybe from UK or from Europe. But definitely, I would vouch on Australian products more, because the moment I say it's an Australian product, people just link it to quality and high standards of packaging. So that is where the Australian food industry remains in the minds of us, and also in the minds of the consumers. We have been importing Australian goods since last 25 years. In fact, currently, even if I was to do a rough count of how many SKUs, I think we have around 1,500 SKUs that we bring in from Australia on a regular basis. And as Catherine was mentioning, we also organize ourselves in such a way that we are in Australia every 2 years to see what's happening new there, what are the new let's say startups that have come up in Australia, the new innovations that have come up in Australia. And that's how we also keep up onto what kind of foods have to come into our stores. And since we have been doing it since so many years, I think it's quite a amazing system that Dubai municipality has put up, where it's actually very easy to bring it in. Okay, however, there would be some kind of challenges on labels and ingredients, but that is part of our life. That is part of what kind of business we do. But we always tend to get over all those obstacles and start importing these products.
Sure. Thanks, Mr. Keethi. Maybe John, since you have a distribution business, and you're also into manufacturing a bit, if you can just tell us more about, your company, and also in terms of, as a distributor for foreign products, what are the sort of factors which you look upon, before finalizing a partner or a supplier from another part of the world?
Sure. Thank you, Sidharth. So just to tell you a little bit about Intelligent Foods. Intelligent Foods is an SME. We were established in the UAE in the year 2000. And as you said, we've always had a focus on manufacturing artisanal products such as ice cream, sauces for QSRs, artisanal breads and pastries, jams, fresh Italian pasta and coffee. So over the years, and since I've joined the company, as you said, nearly 2 years ago, our focus has kind of changed a little bit, from not just manufacturing products, but actually looking to source products from all over the world to help people to enter the market, for us to add to our portfolio of products. And we do see Australia as a destination, for, as Mr. Curti alluded to, that quality products they're associated with Australia, especially meat products and things like this. So we're more focused now on finding partners for distribution, that we can help them to enter the market into the UAE. Intelligent Foods, we have a manufacturing facility that's close to Dubai International Airport. We have external warehousing for ambient, for chilled, and for frozen products. We operate our own fleet of 6 multi-temperature vehicles. We service the entire UAE on a daily basis with weekly shipments going to Saudi, to Oman, Bahrain, and places like this. We have our own diverse kind of sales and marketing team as well, which are represented from India, Pakistan, Jordan, South Africa, Ireland, the UK, which gives us the kind of scope to approach a lot of different nationalities and different kind of people that work in the UAE.
And John, you had mentioned earlier about your focus on or your interest within organic and the dairy-free product scale. So why do you see that as a growth sector here in the UAE? And if you can also allude about the kind of products which you're currently distributing.
At the moment, we have partnerships with Antipodes, which is a water brand. We've linked up with an Acai company called Sambazon. We have a very keen focus on health. I mean, my background, as you said, is from organic foods and cafes, so I have a strong kind of a focus on healthy, organic, and vegan, dairy-free type products. So that's what my focus is on. So I'm kind of looking for similar kind of SMEs to ourselves, to partner with these guys that have similar types of products. I see the vegan industry especially being a kind of an untapped market here in the UAE. I think people are saying we can expect kind of triple-digit growth in the vegan products over the next couple of years. I think organic has, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, organic was, the buzzword. It was, everything wanted. Organic products were seen as very expensive, but I think now they're more mainstream. So I think organic hasn't reached its full scale yet, but I think it's kind of come full circle in terms of organic. So I think, the focus needs to be on more vegan, vegan products, dairy-free, sugar-free. We've got a big mandate in the UAE for sugarless, sugar-free products as well. So I think we need to be looking towards those type of categories.
Thanks, John. Maybe Manoj, I should bring you in here. Obviously Adamtech, is into food service and also imports a lot of meat products. Initially focused a lot of imports from the USA. Can you tell us more about, first of all, your main focus, as well as how maybe the meat business was affected due to COVID-19 in UAE? And have you seen it back to normal levels now? And also, if you can indicate, do you see any particular opportunity when it comes to value-added products, meat value-added products, something like, say, beef jerky, or any other opportunity where you see from Adamtech?
Good morning, Sidharth, and thanks for giving this opportunity. And good morning to all the panelists. And Dr. Essam, it's always a pleasure to meet you and hear you. I had a good opportunity to be with you for a long time, some years back. It's always a pleasure to hear you and see you also. Hi, Kathy. Good morning to you. Sid, basically, Aramtech is one of the pioneers of meat importers into this market, and we have been into this market for almost 45 years. Till few years back, we were predominantly a company who were focusing on the value-added products in the past, and that's where I come into picture into Aramtech almost 6 years back, and we started bringing in some commodity meats from across the globe. And Australia is one of our important source, wherein we source almost like 50% of our meat, which is a mix of our beef, lamb, wagyu products, and some value-added products like the grain-fed, and the Angus programs. So in terms of volume, Australia constitutes almost like 50% of my meat category, and almost 30 to 35% of my value of my meat imports from Australia. Uh, of course, we all know that we have gone through a phase of pandemic post March 2020, and it's not only Aramtech but across all segments, everybody has been affected. Yes, Sid, to be very frank, April, May, June was a disaster for us, as our predominantly 80% of our imports are meat, are chill meats. So we have gone through a very bad phase during those 3 months. Post June, when the UAE market has started to open up, we can see a lot of changes happening in the market. Yes, there are a lot of pockets which has opened up, and we can see good flow of people and good flow of businesses coming in from those pockets. But still, there are certain pockets which still remains to be open. Like we are one of the leading supplier to the airline industries. We are one of the leading suppliers to certain hotels, wherein hotels still are under a certain lockdown. Airline business are still affected. So yes, that is a segment where we are facing a lot of challenges. And hotel industries also, our sales have predominantly fallen down. But overall, we see, from what I hear, what I talk to different people from different part of the world, from different part of the industry, I believe UAE and especially Dubai is doing phenomenally well, and we are one step above of what others are doing in.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thanks, Manoj. And in terms of Australian meat, as you mentioned, you're already importing some Australian meat, and it's already in the market in UAE. Do you see scope for more exporters to get into the market? I mean, South Australia has few, so we would like to tell them exactly what maybe are you looking for, or what is the market looking for? Something like maybe Wagyu beef. Do you see there's more scope for that?
We have been discussing in the past also, like we are looking for a source who can give me a consistent and continuous supply of Wagyu meats all around the year. Currently, I'm facing a lot of challenges as far as my Wagyu meat supplier is concerned. So if there is anybody who can work with me hand in hand and go and work as a partner with me, yes, I'm far more happy if somebody comes along and we move forward.
Sure. And something like beef jerky, is that which you see in the market? I mean, not just for Aramtech, but in the market, you see there's a potential for that?
See, we are a predominantly food service company. We had a retail operation which we have already shut down. So
Okay.
yeah. So for food service, as far as food service is concerned, it may be a very limited opportunity as far as beef jerky is concerned. I may be wrong, but this is what I see. It may be a very limited opportunity, but yes, there is an opportunity for this. And yes, this can be an opportunity for us, as we have an online portal which we have, butchershop.ae, which is our online portal where we sell in a lot of our processed meat into this in this segment. So this is one place where we can look forward for a very premium beef jerky.
Sure. So thanks. No, thanks for also mentioning about online. Maybe Mr. Kirti, I would like to speak with you on the online. From a Choitram's perspective, how have you changed your business in this past, say 8 to 9 months? And was it something which has been done predominantly in 2020? I mean 2020, or was it something which Choitram was already doing your online business?
So we were one of the first companies in the UAE to bring in the online portals. So I think I'm not too sure of the date, but I think we were online even in 2018. Okay, so choitams.com, which is our portal, has been operational since 2018. And even in those days, we reached around 5% of our business, which used to come from the e-commerce portal. We have a hub and spoke kind of arrangement for our e-commerce, where we actually take in orders, and based on the area of delivery, it is delivered from 2 or 3 stores. What has happened is in 2019 there were a lot of third-party apps that started coming up into the market. We were one of the pioneers with them also, so we partnered up with them, and we could do deliveries from our different stores also. And currently, if you talk about the pandemic, of course, e-commerce sales just went through the roof. And luckily, since we have been doing it since so long, we knew how to scale it up. Not only in terms of let's say the products, but also the deliveries, the picking, the last mile delivery, everything. We had to do it, and I think we had around a 300% spike in just the e-commerce part of it.
Sure.
Of course, it has tapered down a bit now that Dubai is more open, in the sense that we used to have a lockdown, and but now it's all on. So people are now coming back to the stores, and again it is balancing out the brick and mortar sales with the e-commerce. But yes, definitely there is a rise in e-commerce. It is going to remain, and more and more things are going to be added into our portal. It will become more and more customer friendly. Of course, we'll have a lot of other features that are coming up. We are going to revamp the entire site by the end of this year. Also, we are also coming up with what we call a hyper local delivery. We'll also come up with what we call a flash delivery. So within 15 or 20 minutes, based on the place where you stay or where you want to deliver, it'll be delivered. So I think e-commerce, I think we have done a quite a good job on it. Yeah.
Maybe just to yes, obviously online has grown enormously in the last couple of months after the pandemic. But can you maybe tell us, for example, if an exporter from South Australia is looking to sell their product online in UAE, as a retailer for online as well as traditional brick and mortar retailer, do those products need to first anyway get a distributor? I know you also have a distributorship arm, so how would the process be? Can they directly, because it's online, can the product directly be shipped and it take couple of days depending on whatever the product might be? I mean,
okay. So I think you're asking me whether we can have a product online, and then say if somebody orders it, and then I place the order with the supplier in Australia, and then it's
I mean, in what way are you doing? It's mainly
so we don't work on that model at the moment. We work on a model what is available with us in Dubai.
Sure.
Right. So if I take a step back and say that, okay, so we work with any product that is available in our stores. So if I was to take an example of, let's say, an Australian product, let's take the case of meat, for example, from Aramtech. If Manoj is importing meat and he's selling it to our stores, then we will put it online and it will be sold. But we'll have to take it from Manoj, from Aramtech. Same thing. I mean, if there is a distributor here, we'll buy it from them. But if you're asking us to add more products onto the website, new products from Australia, yes, of course, we'll have to list it in our stores first. So basically, we'll have to import it into our stores, and then it will go online. We usually use a kind of a 80-20 percentage that, where we see that the fastest moving articles, we put it online, because that is what people are usually looking for.
Sure. Thanks.
So if it becomes a very, very good product to have, of course, it will go on the site.
Sure. Dr. Essam, maybe just getting you back online, when it comes to halal certifications, and you mentioned, one can go reach out to the Essam halal.ae, or, one could go into, the EAC. But can you take us very briefly the process, for example, an Australian exporter, if they want to a value-added product, not maybe meat, but something else, what will be the process and how should he go about doing it, he or she?
So usually the halal certification body, there are a lot of halal certification body in all the world. In Australia, there are a few of them. So their job is to come and visit the company and to verify if this product is halal or not halal. So for example, if, for slaughtering carcasses, so they go and they supervise slaughtering mechanism, and after making the inspection, they give a certificate. We call it halal slaughtering certificate. That for the carcasses. Then this shipment, I think this process in Australia goes to the governmental body. From this governmental body, they print the halal certificate and they send it to us, because in Australia, the halal certificate is unified. For the products, for example, a company would like to, they're adding gelatin to the product, which is gelatin coming from animal source. So the same thing, halal certification body, they go and visit the company, they verify the gelatin which is used in this product and make sure this is halal. Then they give halal certificate, we call it halal certificate, and they send it to the governmental body, which has been revised and approved by the governmental body. Then it will be printed. Many times we found that halal certificate is not matching with what is product coming, because halal certificate should exactly mention what is the product that in the shipment. It should match 100%. Even the production date, the expiry date, the quantity, it should match exactly. Otherwise, if there's any not correct information, then it will be rejected. For we call it Essam, emergency standardization. In their list, they mention the slaughterhouse name and the number. For example, GPS 1234, whatever. So when we verify the certificate with the information, we have to match also the number of the slaughterhouse. So if there's any incorrect information, the shipment will stop in the port. So the exporter may pay the damages and it will cost him a lot.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Essam. John, maybe I'll come to you now. There's a question where, as a distributor of products, as an exporter, what support does the exporter need to expect from a particular distributor in market? If you just take your example, how do you support the exporter when it comes to putting the product into retail stores?
Thanks, Sid. So we would provide a market study for particular products that they were looking to import, along with all the registration with all the relevant authorities. So we would make sure we would guide them, to make sure they have all the labeling requirements, all the halal declarations, all that type of stuff is in place before we actually look at doing that. We will provide the full kind of solution for storage and distribution, sales and marketing support. And in terms of support from the exporter, I would expect them to be to support in some training on the product, and maybe financial support for listing with certain retailers, and so things like this will be quite important.
Okay, maybe on that question to Mr. Kirti now. Mr. Kirti, talking about, for example, listing fees, if you can just talk, give us an inclination of what sort of listing fees would an exporter or a manufacturer be looking at, not just Choy Thrums, but in general?
Yeah, so since we also have our own distribution arm, through which we also do a lot of distribution, I agree completely with John that somehow this market has become quite expensive for new products to be listed, and especially if you want to list it nationwide. If you want to go into the major retailers, then you need a lot of money upfront to get it listed into those stores. So not taking anything away from John, what we usually do is at Choy Thrums is, if we have, let's say, a medium-sized company in Australia who has got a good product, from all angles, what we do is we first bring a small consignment and put it into our stores, and then we gauge the kind of response that we get from our consumers. When we feel that yes, it is a product which is now ready to get into the market nationwide, then is the time when we go back to the supplier and then say, okay, now that we are ready with this product, let's do this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we get into the mode of distributing that product. But before that, we are always open to test it out into our markets. Today we have not reached 1,500 SKUs just in a day, but we've been trying out a lot of products. Of course, some work, some don't work.
So I'd like to just ask you another question here, where because we're talking about the route to market, and you being a retailer as well as having a distributorship arm, what should an exporter look at, especially from Australia or South Australia here? Should they rather look at an export consolidator, or they should look at a distributor to get into the market? The question is because obviously, depending on the number of products and the number of the volume of the product, how what will you suggest for exporters to how should they test the market?
I think it depends on the vision of the brand owner. If the vision of the brand owner is to become big in the next 1 year, okay, then he has to have deep pockets, and that's the only way to get into it. However, I mean, it doesn't happen that everybody has got deep pockets. So I think the safer way would be to have a cautious approach, get into, let's say, a retailer like Chotram, and of course, we can help them in getting, let's say, smaller consignments into our stores, and we can have a look at how it can be taken forward. Of course, we are, of course, as distributors, we'll be more than happy. I mean, even though I look at retail, but as distributors, we'll be more than happy to bring in a product which has a big bang approach, and which can get into, let's say, 200 outlets in a single day, and it can be put onto the shelves. Of course, there's a lot that goes into it. There's a lot of visibility that goes into it. There's a lot of promotions then that has to be run at least for 6 months. I mean, there'll be magazines, there will be social media to get into, and so which makes the brand or the product come to the top of the consumer's mind. Otherwise, it's not quite possible.
So just one question here on that. Why should a exporter, I mean, and this is just not for Choithrams, but I know there are other retailers in the market who also have a distributorship business. Why should an exporter look at maybe say, a company like Choithrams or one of the other retailers in the market like Almaya, or who have other distributorship as well? Because in the end, you have a retail store and you also have a distributorship businesses. Doesn't that kind of limit? Should the exporter, does it limit the exporter because your distributor may look at only
No,
some stores?
no, it doesn't. I mean, I can give you example of so many Australian brands. I mean, leave it on Australian, but I can give you so many brands that we've taken from all over the world, and we've nurtured them. So we actually call it a kind of a place where we bring in small brands, and we grow them in our stores, and then we do the distribution. And this
Sure.
is and this we do just to help the exporter also, who doesn't have deep pockets to get into the market, in a big bang approach.
Sure. No,
So
thank you.
when we talk about both the retail and the distribution arm, we clearly have a line which defines what retail does and what distribution does. So there is no conflict of interest also. I mean, we've been doing distribution since so many years, as long as we've been doing retailing, and I think today we service around 18,000 doors just in UAE.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Kirti. Manoj, maybe and final comments from all of you now. For yourself, from Aramtech perspective, what do you think are the key challenges which suppliers face while entering the UAE market, and what would you suggest them before they start exporting into the UAE?
See, the biggest challenge what we are predominantly a meat company. So the biggest challenge what we are facing is the consistency and the continuity in the availability. There are a lot of challenges which our partners at the back end also are facing. So fortunately for us, we are dealing with some of the big names from Australia. Like my partners are with JBS, Midfield, Fletchers, who are a known identity in Australia, and they have been into this business for a long time. So sometimes even this big giants face some problems in terms of availability, consistency in the quality, the price fluctuation what we face continuously. So when a new player comes into this market, we need to partner with somebody who can be with us. Like I always tell my partners that we have to catch our hands together and we have to walk forward. So this is the biggest challenges what we as a meat importers are facing currently.
Sure. Thank you, Manoj. And John, for yourself, maybe in concluding remarks, what kind of opportunities do you foresee, for as a partner to say manufacturers in South Australia? Do you see private labeling as a particular opportunity, value addition in market?
Again, I get back to my previous point. I mean, I do see from my side, I think the biggest opportunities are for healthy products, for vegan, for sugar-free products. And what I would say to potential exporters is to try and find a distributor that has synergies with your company. So if you're looking for a partner that is a meat distributor and you're trying to sell a vegan product, or try and find the right partner to work with, rather than just going with the first person you find, or and thinking that's your exact route into the country. So I think about finding the right partner is very important as well.
Sure. No, thanks, John. And Dr. Essam, from a regulator perspective, any exporter facing an issue, what would you tell them? How should they, what do you suggest to them in terms of reducing those contraventions, and how can you help?
Yeah, generally, as been mentioned with Mr. Kerti, that the procedure is very simple in UAE. We encourage everyone to export food to Dubai. Usually, as I mentioned, that we release the shipment within 20 minutes when it's reached to Dubai municipality inspection area. And we think that the procedure that we are following in Dubai, it is well advanced, and the contraventions, honestly, it is just to make the exporter aware about our procedure. We are available. I can share my contacts if they have any concern, so we can explain to them in more details, and we can follow up their requests in case of any shipments being stuck, or they want to know the feedback about their consignment. Usually we can speak directly to the importer and exporter about their consignment. Also, we are able to share with the Australian government the specific details of all the contraventions. So whatever contraventions numbers being shown in the presentation today, we can give the specification to the Australian government, and they can contact the companies that they have these contraventions. And last point that I want to mention about Dubai, we are importing from 173 countries. So we are, any country or any companies would like to export to Dubai is most welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Essam. And last, Mr. Kirti, just from your perspective, from a retailer perspective, how would you right now define the UAE consumer market, for the food and beverage products?
Sorry,
Can you hear me?
No, yeah, tell me.
The consumer, if you can give some consumer insights, how do you define the consumer right now in the UAE? What are the key things? And how is it different? How is the UAE market different, say, from some of the other international markets?
Just to put it in the right perspective, even if you look at it within the GCC, since we operate in Bahrain, Doha, and also in UAE, I think that the UAE is a much mature market. UAE is not only mature in terms of, let's say, the consumers, but also the way we import it. Thanks to Dubai municipality, who has set up such an amazing a system wherein we can import things which are trailed and and done. The consumer, of course, is looking for good value. Having said that, they are not looking for something cheap, but they are looking for something which is much better. Like John was saying, the organic thing is almost there. I mean, I think there are very rarely any categories where we don't have organic stuff into it. But of course, the vegan thing is rising. The free froms, everything is going up, and quality. I mean, if you have one word for it, it is quality. And I just as said, in the beginning, this is what defines Australian products. The quality of it. I would encourage more and more Australian manufacturers, however small or big they would be, to get in touch with us and to see how we can bring more and more quality products into the market. Of course, because of the COVID, I think anything that's called healthy has become quite a product to have on the shelves. and healthy could be into any category. You know, anything that is healthy can sell now. Of course, snacking and all these categories are booming currently at the moment. The only thing that, you know, maybe Dr. Essam might not like me saying this, but you know, the sugar tax has put a bit of a brakes on a lot of you know, products. But yes, we are working with the municipality and with the FTA to see how even that process can be streamlined, and we can get you know, more and more sugar-free products onto the shelf. Of course,
Sure.
it's a cause of concern that sugar has to be reduced. I mean, sugar intake has to be reduced within the population. So I think it's a very good move that they have done. But the only thing is that, you know, we need to move with the rules and regulations on that. So maybe the Australian companies also should have a kind of a vision even on the sugar tax and what implications it has here.
Sure. Thank you so much, Mr. Kirti, and thank you to all the speakers as well for their inputs, you know, about the market and how to enter the UAE market, what route to take, as well as, you know, the very informative presentation from Dr. Essam on the inputs. Just to tell our exporters, this webinar is the first in a series of maybe 3 webinars. The next one, which again we'll be working along with Food Essay with Catherine to do a B2B you know, platform here. It will be basically, we'll get more importers on board and we'll have exporters coming on board to do a bit of matchmaking. That's what I would like to say in the end. I see Mr. Kirti raising his hand. Just final points from yourself.
No. Just a question. Are you going to pass on our email addresses to the exporters who are watching this webinar at the moment?
Yes,
just in case they want to get in touch with us.
Yes, we will provide details of all the panelists to the exporters, and obviously, as I mentioned, this will be recorded and will be put across onto a YouTube channel as well, in case some of the exporters who registered could not join. Catherine, just final remarks from you before we close.
Thanks, Sid. Well, I think it's been really interesting for everybody, and thank you so much for all of your time. I just would like to reiterate that the UAE is a really important and a market for our food and beverage manufacturers, and we look forward to reconnecting and continuing to build relationships with you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining, and please stay safe. Thank you.